So I wanted to make this video kind of talking about Electron and the custom title bar and a starter template, kind of going through some stuff. Just kind of wanted to give you what it looks like right off the bat so you can see. So here's a window here that I made. If this is a custom bar, it's resizable. If I click off of it, you can see it kind of like the color decreases like as if it's not active. Custom input buttons, they kind of look like the Mac buttons, but they're gray, but they scroll over and have like the Mac color. If I hit the yellow one, it minimizes. If I hit the green one, it full screens, and if I hit it again, it maximizes. So it's maximize and unmaximize. And then here's the X button. So this will actually close the program. So let's kind of, after seeing that, let's jump into kind of what I wanted to show here. So first off, let me hit the React starter template. So this is actually something I built on my GitHub. You can check it out. Here's the link. This is what it's called. So let's git clone this, and you can see what's going on here. So I can explain to you what I'm doing here. So let's see into that. Sorry, I made it so long. Can't even type right now. So that's what's in it. You can kind of see it here. And let me open that as well from the desktop. Okay, so here we go. Kind of get a view of this. On the GitHub page, there is some kind of stuff what to do here. It's asking you to use Yarn. You can use npm, but Yarn's recommended because of Electron-Builder. They recommend using Yarn. And then a how to use, clone it, install, which I'll do right now. So install your dependencies, Yarn install. Let's let that install. And then for development, you'd run this script. And for building, you'd run this script and change your tag depending on what operating system you're using. Here's some of the description of some of the scripts that are built in. And then here are the dependencies that are being used and the dev dependencies. Last time I updated it was today as well. So this is a public template GitHub. Anyone could start here. And then I'll explain kind of why this is cool and why I felt like the need to build this. So let me open it with code. I like Visual Studio Code a lot. It's a really nice IDE. So this is kind of the template you get. You have your Yarn lock file, which was just added because that Yarn installed. A README, which is just what I was showing. Package.json, which is really important. The main.js, this is containing just the default Electron setup. This is pretty scaled back. There's some customizations. A couple things in here I've switched around. It's using this Electron is dev package, which sets like an environment variable if it's in developer or not, which lets you use the create React app dev. It's kind of like a proxy, so it'll load, like proxy loads the localhost server. So while you're creating stuff in dev development, you can use the create React app scripts as well. So you can actually see changes in real time with the React. Public, it's just the basic public stuff, and source folder, it's literally just the raw React folder here. Nothing's changed. I've just packed it nicely together for you and updated kind of everything to the latest stuff that's going on right now. It's running Electron 7, which just came out literally today. And then it's running the latest version of the Create React React, and it's running the latest Create React script, or Create React app script as of today. So let me kind of break down what's going on here. First, let me show you exactly what this looks like. So if I run yarn electron dev, so I'm going to scroll down the scripts. So here's all the scripts here. So I'm going to run electron dev. This is going to use the concurrently dev dependency, and then also cross environment. The reason why I'm using cross environment is because I can set an environment variable right here, and I'm gonna put browser none, which will mean when the React start script runs, it won't open up a browser window, because you don't even need that. You're building an Electron, not in the web, so you want it to run in Electron. There's no point in opening the web browser and then closing it. So let me run this. So that's going to start this is the React development server. It's going to compile it. Then it's going to run nodemon right here. It's going to wait for that server port to pop up. Once that pops up on 3000, then it's going to nodemon execute electron dot, which just looks for where your main's pointing to, and the main is pointing to main.js in the relative directory of this folder, the relative root. So this is pretty much what it looks like. If you run create React app in the browser right now, this is exactly what you would see, because this is literally just a default React script, create React app. So everything in here is literally, I mean, it's still got please enable JavaScript stuff. It's literally got everything in here, which in Electron you'd actually want to disable this, because this isn't going to run in the browser. This isn't going to run on the desktop. So obviously you don't need that, but it's just native. So if you like that, it's got everything built in and packed in for you. You can grab this at my GitHub. Some of the customizations that were done to make this work correctly. If I go to package.json, if you look at this build tag, this is using Electron-Builder, which Electron-Builder literally builds everything for you with Electron. It's super nice and convenient. There's actually a problem with if you were just to grab and make an Electron folder or file and then create React app and try to run them together, you're going to have a lot of issues just with the way that React exports and builds its files when it runs a build. So this kind of cleans up stuff. This right here, this home page, is extremely important. What React does, create React app, when it builds, is it looks at this and it sees just the dot, which is just the relative path, which is the same as that. And it knows when it builds this, it's going to store everything relatively together, because Electron needs to be able to see everything together. All the scripts need to be at the same file. All the .json or JavaScript files need to be at the same level as the .html files and everything. So these this will set all the scripts together, and this actually fixes any issue. This points to the main.js file, which is the Electron script. When you build it, you want to set extends to null, because if I'm using create React app, it'll automatically look inside the public folder for this script, but I don't really like it in there. I like it kind of out of here. You could even put this in a folder. You just need to adjust some of this stuff. I just like it here. So extends null will do that. There's some other information. Any files that are going to be used during the build process need to be explicitly described here. So the build folder will be used, node modules will be used and needed, and then the main.js file will be used and needed during build. So this is the React build, Electron, and then node modules. Assets folder, there's not one in here, but this will look for assets such as icons and whatnot, and you can look at the Electron-Builder right here. You can look at the official documents for more information in regards to them. So actually, let me show you kind of that real-time fill. So if I go here, and if I just hit Command S, you're going to see it. It's going to reload this, and that's because nodemon is actually watching this. So Electron kind of acts as the back end, and React is kind of the front end. It's technically all front end, but with nodemon's going to watch this node process, while create React app is going to watch this Chromium process. So if I go into, let's see, where's that at? If I go into app.js, let's just put an h1 tag. I put that in there. You can see that update live. Oops. Moving stuff around now. You can take a look at that and see that that's popped up right there, which is super awesome. So you can see that happening live. And if I duplicate that, save it, you're going to see it pop up again and again. If I save this file, if I do a console log low, you can see it pop up there. So using NodeMon and the create React script, you're going to get the functionality of being able to adjust your Electron file and your React files at the same time and see those happen live in development, which is super awesome. So now, I'll actually keep those in there just for the heck of it. So let me clear out this. Now if I run yarn electron pack, and then there's a W tag here, or flag, which means it's going to build for Windows. I'll let that build. If you notice, this build folder here just popped up, and if you know anything about React, that is the React build. So here's all the React build files, static files, everything's building. It's asking me to specify an author here. Just put my name. Try that again. I took the author off because it's just raw, so I'll state that you need to specify author name here. Yeah, you can actually watch it build here, what process, what it's doing. It's building for the Windows 32 platform, x86. This is a 64-bit app. Finished, only took 23 seconds to build. If I go to the dist folder now, you can actually get the installer file right here. And then if I get to the unpacked folder, you can see it right here. And here it is. So it's actually, this is a real process that is running. It's not running terminal or some tricks or anything. This is an actual real executable process that's running using RAM, using CPU, it uses GPU and everything to render. Oh, already closed it. So that is the create React script that I built. Again, here's my GitHub if you want to check that out and grab this. Kind of just cleans up everything. It's super easy. You don't need to mess with anything. You could just literally jump right in. Start editing main if you want to change preferences in Electron, and then start editing your React folder. If you already know React, then you're good to go, and everything's in there already ready for you to go. And I even changed that to an arrow function for you, so you're all ES6 ready to go. So let's close that. Now I want to talk about, jump through here. Now I want to talk about the custom Windows folder. So if it's a project I've been working on over here. So if I run Electron dev. There's an actual UI I'm building and working on. And it's using a custom taskbar with a lot of functionality, full functionality. Everything is functional. Arrow snap, full screen, or maximum. I keep saying full screen, but maximize. Pulling off the top, double click to restore, resizing on all sides of the window. Every aspect here, close, maximize, minimize, everything. So let's get that out of the way, and let's bring up the code as exactly how this is working and what I'm doing here and why I think this is important. So let me open up Visual Studio Code here. We'll take a look at the Electron folder, and then this is the React part. We'll take a look at Titlebar, which Titlebar is this entire div here. And actually, let me relaunch with the developer tools up so you can actually see where this is at. So if I pull through here, Titlebar, so that's the entire top. You can see it highlighting Titlebar. It says Titlebar inactive, and then if I click on it, it's going to switch to just basic. It's pretty cool. Let's just React. You can do that in native Java though, obviously as well. It's just changing the class, dynamic class. Kind of see through here, all the aspects. This is a just a flex, big flex box right here, with different stuff on it. And these don't even do anything, but it's just for concept anyway. So if I open up Electron, and then let's open up this to the side, we'll take a look at exactly what's going on and what is doing what, so you can see how this works and some of the hurdles I've overcome. You're going to see a lot of stuff here anyway. So here's my Electron layout, the whole app layout. It's just 65 or 95 lines. Nothing crazy right now. It'll obviously build as I do more, but this is just kind of basic. Just the title bar kind of on here is really critical. Custom title bars for Electron are really difficult to do. They're really difficult to find. It's better to kind of make your own anyway. It's fun because you get to kind of see how they work. I just kind of want to talk about this IPC renderer and the IPC main, which is really critical because let me jump over to Electron GitHub. Let me jump over to their GitHub real quick, and we'll look at releases. So if you look at Electron 7, version 7.00, this was just came out, it says 2 days ago. If you read right here, this is really, really critical. So it says added IPC renderer, invoke and IPC main handle for asynchronous request response style IPCs. These are strongly recommended over remote module. So the remote module, if you're familiar with that, was a way for the renderer side, which this is the renderer side, because this is what's being rendered to the window. It's a way for the renderer side to communicate with the front side or the main process. And the remote is a call. You would call it like, you can actually still use it. Window.require. You say electron. Oh my gosh, I cannot spell today. Electron.remote. You call it like that. And now if I actually, let's console. Sorry, I'm struggling today. Console.log that remote. If I go to console here, you're going to see that object in here, and it's a pretty large object. It's got a lot of functionality on it. You can read through the official docs of exactly what you can do with all this stuff. Get current window is really critical at getting the state of the window, you know, width, height, different things like that. A lot of stuff. There's a ton of stuff on this. So remote was really nice to use. The problem with the remote is really slow. Remote, if you're trying to call remote on your back end to do something, you know, you're trying to call remote with your front end to your back end, which is this, your main process, to do something in the, you know, in your actual window file here, in your application. There's delays, there's issues, it's not very fast. Sometimes, you know, there's bugs. If you watch, like, see how I'm clicking off of that, and that's triggering obviously something, an active and inactive, like if the window's focused or not. I know, click on, click off. In a remote, that's delayed sometimes. It doesn't look very nice. It's not very smooth. It's clunky. It throws a bunch of event listeners on your file. You're going to get a bunch of event listener errors. It's just dirty. It's just throwing stuff all over the place. It's not worth using, so I don't recommend it. And as of 7.0.0, they don't recommend it either. And there's a nice little article here about the remote and actually how, you know, it's slow right away. Number one, it's slow, and it's also dangerous. There's a lot of security and vulnerabilities with it, and this kind of shows, how to kind of switch some of your remote functions over to the new IPC asynchronous events, which I actually have a couple in here, which I'll show you. But in the official docs, if you go over to the IPC main, it shows exactly what IPC main is. It's a module is an instance of the event emitter class. When used in the main process, it handles asynchronous and synchronous messages sent from a renderer process web page. Messages sent from a renderer will be emitted to this module. So literally all it is just communication. It's just a handshake, back and forth communication on how to get React to communicate with Electron and how to get Electron to communicate with React. They're just talking back and forth. That's all you're doing. Because the issue with React is React runs in the browser typically. It's built to run in the browser. I mean, except for using React Native, then you're going to run it in mobile. But this I can't. You're not going to come over here and require path. You're not going to come over here, get the system. You can, but when you're running this in the web, you don't need that. It doesn't have access to that. You can't use that. But when you're using Electron, it's a desktop application. You actually do need access to system files. You need to be able to write to the system, to pull from the system, grab information, send information back and forth. You also need, if you want the React actual visual elements to be able to communicate and function with the main process, you need those to communicate as well, because this process is running on the desktop. This process is not running on the desktop. This process is running in Chromium in your main process. So you need a kind of a bridge, and that's what IPC is. IPC is a bridge back and forth, and remote used to do that, but remote is not recommended anymore, and it's really slow, and I don't recommend it either. I've had a lot of bugs with remote, and that's why I've moved over to IPC as of 2 days ago with 7.00. So let's kind of take a look at some of the functionality and how you can create your own style. Title bar here. This is completely custom style. It kind of looks like the Mac one, but I made it look like that. You can make it look whatever the heck you want. And I'll kind of show you some of the pitfalls with how this works. So, excuse me. So if you look here, I have two state calls right here. So here's two states, and I'm using arrow function ES6 React with use state hook. So these are state hooks. So I have an is active and an is maximized state here. So is active these aren't functions or anything. These are just variables I've created. Is active is gonna I'm using that to figure out whether or not this window is in focus or not. So is active, is the window active? Is it not? And then is maximized, is this window maximized or not? And so those are kind of two of the functionalities I need to perform these custom taskbar functionalities. So let's look at this IPC renderer here and some of these IPC functions. So in the main function, you're going to call IPC main, and you're going to require that. So that's what that looks like there. So require IPC main. And on your renderer side, you're going to require the IPC renderer. Keep in mind, this is a main function, this is a renderer function. That's why you're going to see a difference. And there's a difference in the functions and objects that are on this. There's a big difference. So you need to know and use them the correct way. You're not going to call IPC main over here because this isn't the main process. You're not going to get access to the main process in your renderer. You're only going to get access to the renderer in this process. So make sure you call those right. So let's look at this minimize handle function. So this is one of these new asynchronous functions. I could use async await here, and that's connected to this one right here. I could use async await again, but I'm not using that right now. But you can use async await functionality and syntaxing on these. So the way that this works is, if I go down here, this actually is communicating with the renderer first to the main. So this is backwards. So it's the renderer asking the backside for something, to do something. So this is a function, minimize handler, and if I go down, you can kind of guess where probably where the minimize handler is at. It's going to be right there on that div. So if I go down, here's the minimize handler. It's sitting on this SVG image. This SVG image is this circle right here, and it has a hover CSS class on it that changes it to yellow. And then if it's active or not, it also kind of changes too. So there's 3 CSS classes on there. Here's the Onclick handler. This is just React syntax. This is the Onclick handler again, and it's a minimize handler. So it's going to run this function here. So if I go up to minimize handler here, const minimize handler is going to pass an arrow function to it. And what that does on click is it's going to run the IPC renderer invoke minimize event. And so again, invoke is brand new. You need 7.00 to use the invoke functionality. If you're not using 7.00, you can use the send and on functionality of the IPC renderer in main. You can kind of see the on right there, but on and send is what you'll use. If you check out this, he kind of talks about that, and he shows this at the very bottom. You can see that right here for 6 and older. Kind of shows what to do there. Okay, so back here, when this runs, it's going to invoke the minimize event. And again, this is not an actual variable. This is made up. I can name this whatever I want. I can name it Taco Bell if I really wanted to. It's just a way for the IPC in the main to know what's happening. So these are actually custom event handlers and custom event listeners. This is a event handler. So what this is going to do is it's going to talk to the front end over here. It's going to look for this, which if you go over here and look, it's right there. You can kind of see that. So this is the IPC main.handle function, and handle and invoke work together. So the renderer side is going to call invoke, IPC main, the front side is going to handle it. So this is how the backside talks to the front side, and this handles the invoke. So I'm invoking that event listener, which is all it's doing is now the front end is listening for this. Whenever the back end calls this event listener, the front end's just sitting here waiting for that event listener to be called. So once it's called, which is when I click this, it's an onClick function. When I click that, it sends this event. This is listening. This is the handler. This is the listener. This is listening. It listens for it, and then it's going to run this function, which is main window minimize. Main window minimize is just a default Electron function that literally minimizes the window, and I'm just minimizing the main window right here. So when I click that, literally, so I click that, it invoked the minimize event. It was listening for the minimize event. It heard it because I clicked it. Minimizes the window. Done. Super simple, super easy. Next one, maximize handler. This is an on-click maximize handler. It's sitting on this div, which is the little green guy, like that. And actually, when it goes into maximize, this switches to another div, and this becomes the unmaximize event because I need to run a different function. You can't run maximize on top of maximize. You need maximize and unmaximize, or maximize and restore. I've seen unmaximize actually be a little bit cleaner than restore. So I'm going to use unmaximize right here. So when I hit maximize, again, it invokes the maximize event. The main function's just literally listening. It's waiting. It's like ping. It's just waiting for it. It hears it. It sees it. It goes through. Maximizes the window. Boom. Done. Super simple. Super easy. Again, the close event is seen on this one. When it runs, it's not even gonna quit the window. It just quits the whole app. Again, this could be rewritten a little bit cleaner to use. Darwin's just Mac. That's probably what I'd actually put in there. Just because Macs when you close an application in Mac, it doesn't actually close all the way. You've seen that before. It just goes in the dock, kind of, and just hides in the background. So it starts up a little bit quicker, but it doesn't actually fully close it. So you'd want to keep that functionality typically on the Mac side, because you want it to look native as possible. So now if we kind of look at some of these other weirder ones, these are not running IPC main, but they are still talking through the IPC channel to these right here, which is the on. So this is kind of backwards. So now the back end, or the front end, excuse me, the back end, the main process is now communicating to the front end process. So when something happens here, it's going to trigger these now. So these go that way, these go this way. So with maximize main window dot on, so this is an on event on maximize, it's going to run this function. It sends, and these are not made up words or events. These are actual real events. You have to look these up. They're the window events, event emitters. So these are actual real events that are already built into this object that it's already listening for. So when this happens, when the window is closed, it's going to do something. When the window is maximized, it's going to do something. When it's unmaximized, it's going to do something. So here, when the window is maximized, it's going to run main window web contents.send, which is kind of like an IPC send. It's the same thing. It works a little bit different. I don't have to send a callback, but you can use a callback if you really wanted to. Use a callback there, but I'm not going to use a callback. I just needed to know. Yeah, there we go. I just need, all I need is the front end to know when this window is maximized, so that I can do something in the front end. I don't need a callback or anything like that. No communication as of right now. So when this runs maximized, it's going to send maximized. This right here actually is a custom event. So I'm creating another custom event. This name is custom. It's now this side. The renderer is now on maximized. So this is a listener. This is an emitter. This is a listener. So this is listening for the maximized event. This sends the maximized event. When this window is maximized, it sends the maximized event. This is listening for the maximized event. When the maximized event comes through, it sets it. This is a React hook state. So it's going to set isMax to true. When it sets isMax to true, it's going to do some functionality, and boom. So you can actually, I can actually show you this. If I console log of this, let's type in make sure I actually put the right variable in there. So if I put is maximized in there, let's clean the console out. If I do that and pop this open, you're going to see true. And if I pull this off, you're not going to really see it, but you'll see false pop up too. So if I spit this up here, you see true. And if I pull this off, you're going to see false. True, false, true, false. So clear that. Clean that up. Take this off real quick. So that's how you use the IPC communicator to talk between the two. Again, remote was kind of the standard back in the day. Don't use it though. It literally has problems. I've already submitted a couple bugs on the Electron GitHub page about the remote function. Some of the problems I have with the IPC, I've had no problems. IPC is way faster. It's way more native. It's talking to the native side of things. It's talking directly. It's not jumping through hoops. It's not sending a bunch of objects through. It's way cleaner. It's way less. It's more custom, so you can kind of use more. It's more work. Remote, you won't even need any of this stuff. All of this I have to write. You have to write those in there to talk to these right here. Remote would just do it all for you, but with that, because it does it all for you, it has to send everything through, all the objects through, to make sure it's not going to miss something, and it's really slow. You want your application to run fast, so spend the time to learn IPC and write it correctly. It's not hard to write this stuff. Just look in the docs. There's not really that many functionalities you need anyway. They don't even really recommend using IPC that much. You want to minimize it to as little as possible. Obviously, when creating a custom title bar, you're going to need IPC communication. some sort of functionality to get the functionality of this bar working correctly. Last thing I kind of want to touch, and I'll kill this, kind of only want to see this in here. I want to see the dev so I can show you the dev tools so I can show you kind of what's going on here. This will be the last thing I kind of show. So let's pull this up. We go here, let's break this down. Titlebar. You're gonna see this resizer class, and this is really critical. I actually stole this from Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is built in Electron. You can actually pull the dev tools up of Electron right here, or of Visual Studio Code, I mean. You can pull them up and kind of mess around them. If you jump through that though, you're gonna see that they use a custom title bar as well. Title bars are hard to make, and so there's a lot of stuff going on in them. So I was like, yeah, well, I'm gonna get steal as much as I can. Functionality you have to write on your own because you can't see it really unless you want to dive through their GitHub, which is all TypeScript and kind of crazy and really advanced. So I'm like, nah, I'll just figure it out on my own, which I did. So you're gonna see a couple things here. You're gonna see title bar inactive, div, which is contain all these, drag region, and resizer. So to get the actual title bar working correctly with full functionality, you're going to need a couple things working correctly. So when you state a div as draggable, which you need to do, you need to state a div is draggable. So this div right here is sitting underneath this main one. If you look right here, it's set to drag, so I can drag it around right here. When you do that, you kind of lose functionality of some of the basic Windows things, like arrows, snap, pulling from the top, all that jazz. And you lose this arrow resizer at the top. If I remove this, you could probably see this right now. It's draggable, but now look at, I lost the ability to resize this window, which is critical to me because that's not true functionality. A window should be able to be resized from the top no matter what. So what I did is kind of following Visual Studio Code a little bit, is they put a little div here, at the top that sits on top. It's like 6 pixels wide, 6 pixels height, I think, on this guy, and it just sits right here, and it has a no drag option on it, because if you put drag, you're gonna lose the arrow. No drag fixes and solves that problem, but then you also kind of need, there's another issue when you put a no drag window, is now if you were to put it at the top, I can click and pull that off. Well, if I take off this style right here, let's comment that out. So the resizer exists, right? But if I drag it to the top now, I'm clicking and dragging it from the top, and I can't pull it off. I can go a little lower and pull it, but I can't pull it off because you can't pull a non-draggable element. So you need a way to hide that element when it's maximized, and so that's where IPC comes in, and a little bit of React trickery here, dynamic styles. So this is maxed is a state variable right here. When the window is maximized, again, when the window is maximized, it sees the event. It's going to set this to true, that the window has been maximized. You know, the back end's talking to the front end is talking to the back end. It's working it all out. If I pull this down here, you're going to see resizer there and nothing else special. If I pull this to the top, and now if I reopen this, you're going to see style equals none. And you pull it off, what? It disappeared again. So you see display equals none. And if I pull this off real quick, you're going to watch that display equals none disappear. Because when I pull it off the top, it's not maximized anymore, and it's listening for that event. It's listening for the unmaximized event, which sets this to false. If this is false on the state change, then it's going to remove this. This is a ternary function here. It has an empty style object, so it's not going to do anything. So that's actually a trick to get around that functionality and to get full functionality back of this window. This project is also in my GitHub. You can take a look, copy it if you want. Steal this, I don't care. That's the point of GitHub, is to be open source and to share. It took me a long time. It took me about 30 hours of research and coding to correctly have functionality like this that actually worked. Switched from remote to IPC, jumping around, talking to people, trying to figure everything out. And again, you can set these icons to whatever you want. This is just CSS fun. So if I open this to the side, there's a lot of CSS in here. All this stuff is just, transitionals, pulling through it, transitioning to yellow. Right here, you can kind of see some of that here. It transitions the styles to active versus inactive. If I'm here, it's active. If I'm off of it, it's inactive. And again, that's another IPC. So you need to get all that functionality to make it look like a real window, because this is a real window. If I come off this, there's a lot of functionality with this window. I can drag it to the top. I can pull it. I can resize it. When I click off of it, the color goes off of it. Minimize, maximize. All that functionality you want to have on a native window. So you're going to have to write it yourself, because the reason why you'd write the custom window title bar yourself is because Electron doesn't actually support, in the current state, customizing the color of the Windows bar or style of the Windows bar. So if you want functionality, if you want custom style, like dark, whatever color you want, you're gonna have to write it yourself. And that's where learning IPC comes in hand right here. Just read the docs. It's not super hard. Again, this is on my GitHub. You can check that out too. Alongside that, the Create React app started template, which I wrote that and I used that to start this. So it's a great way to start a project. It kind of cleans everything up for you. You don't have to deal with anything. So give that a shot. Thanks for watching the video. I know that was a lot of information. I hope that this helps someone out when they're creating a custom title bar. I hope you like my title bar. It's kind of fun. Kind of looks like a window Mac hybrid color title bar. And by the way, this title bar does work in Mac too. And the Mac one is hidden with this set of code right now. Is hidden. So if I were to open and run this in Mac, it would look exactly like this as well. And this would work. These functionalities would work as well. So that's kind of fun. So you can kind of make it look be creative and make it look any way you want. Put some funky icons here, styles, make it look how you want. So thanks for watching the video, and I appreciate any like or anything. So thank you.